group, his voice deeper than usual as if to assert some authority. "This, of course, is the station house where we do business. Police business. And we're in the lobby now." Brad glanced at Sara. To call the area where they stood a lobby was a bit of a stretch. The room was barely 10 feet by 8, with a cement block wall opposite the glass door at the entrance. A row of photographs showing various squads in the Grant County Police Force lined the wall to Sara's right, a large portrait in the center showing Mac Anders, the only police officer in the history of the force who had been killed in the line of duty. Across from the portrait gallery, Marla stood sentry behind a tall beige laminate counter that separated visitors from the squad room. She was not a naturally short woman, but age had made her so by crooking her body into a nearly perfect question mark. Her glasses were usually halfway down the bridge of her nose, and Sara, who wore glasses to read, was always tempted to push them back up. Not that Sara would ever do such a thing. For all Marla knew about everybody and their neighbor, and their dog, in town, not much was known about her. She was a widow with no children. Her husband had died in the Second World War. She had always lived on Hemlock, which was 2 streets over from Sara's parents. She knitted, and she taught Sunday school and worked full-time at the station, answering phones and trying to make sense of the mountains of paperwork. These facts hardly offered great insight into Marla Sims. Still, Sara always thought there had to be more to the life of a woman who had lived some 80-odd years, even if she'd lived all of them in the same house where she had been born. Brad continued his tour of the station, pointing to the large, open room behind Marla. "Back there's where the detectives and patrol officers like myself conduct their business, calls and whatnot, talking to witnesses, writing reports, typing stuff into the computer, and, His voice trailed off as he finally noticed he was losing his audience. Most of the children could barely see over the counter. Even if they could, 30 empty desks spread out in rows of 5s with various sizes of filing cabinets between them were hardly attention-grabbing. Sara imagined the kids were wishing they had stayed in school today. Brad tried. "In a few minutes, I'll show y'all the jail where we arrest people. Well, not arrest them." He gave Sara a nervous glance, lest she point out his mistake. "I mean, this is where we take them after we arrest them. Not here, but back in the jail." Silence fell like a hammer, only to be interrupted by an infectious giggle that started in the back of the group. Sara, who knew most of the children from her practice at the children's clinic, hushed a few with a sharp look. Marla took care of the rest, her swivel chair groaning with relief as she raised herself above the counter. The giggling shut off like a faucet. Maggie Burgess, a child whose parents gave more credence to her opinion than any child of that age ought to be given, dared to say, "Hey, Dr. Linton," in a grating, sing-song voice. Sara gave a curt nod. "Maggie?" Brad began, a deep blush still souring his milk-white complexion. Sara was keenly aware of his gaze lingering a little too long on her bare legs. Y'all know Dr. Linton?" Maggie rolled her eyes. "Well, yeah," she said, her sarcastic tone reviving a few giggles. Brad pushed on. "Dr. Linton is also the medical examiner in town, in addition to being a pediatrician." He spoke in an instructional tone, though surely the children already knew this. It was a subject of great humor on the bathroom walls at the elementary school. "I imagine she's here on county business. Dr. Linton?" "Yes," Sara answered, trying to sound like Brad's peer rather than someone who could remember him bursting into tears at the mere mention of a shot. "I'm here to talk to the chief of police about a case we're working on." Maggie opened her mouth again, probably to repeat something horrible she had heard her mother say about Sara and Jeffrey's relationship, but Marla's chair squeaked and the child remained silent. Sara vowed she would go to church next Sunday just to thank the woman.